Today in Behind the Ops, we're stepping into the future of hospitality with someone who isn't just watching the industry evolve, he's building what comes next. Andrew Martino is a high-level operator, founder, and visionary, best known for pioneering GTK, the world's first digital food truck, and for redefining what takeout and delivery can be. With deep experience in ghost kitchens, digital restaurants, food tech strategy, and hybrid operations, Andrew has spent more than a decade designing concepts, scaling brands, and turning hospitality challenges into scalable systems. From launching Martino Hospitality Services to founding Gold Coast Community Delivery, Andrew blends entrepreneurship, tech-driven innovation, and boots-on-the-ground operational excellence. His background spans everything from new restaurant openings and P&L optimization to team building and top-line growth across full-service and digital-first environments. Today, he joins us to explore where the industry is heading, why digital hospitality is the next frontier, and how operators can leverage systems, technology, and creativity to redefine the customer experience. Let's go behind the ops with Andrew Martino. Good morning, Andrew. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I can't complain. So let's talk about you. Tell me a little bit about your company, a little bit about what's going on in your world.
Sure. So the company is Ghost Truck Kitchen, aka GTK, because that came a little bit of a tongue twister. Uh, we started founded back in 2017, opened our first store in spring of 2018, and we're a multi-menu concept that focuses on takeout, delivery, and catering. And multi-menu just means we get to do a lot of different things all from scratch to eliminate the veto vote from folks. And make sure everything's fresh and delicious.
That's fantastic. So I have to ask, what's your favorite dish to prepare?
So I go through waves where I only want one certain thing. So for a while it was our fried rice bowl, which is like a hibachi style fried rice bowl. And then I went into a pulled pork burrito, which we did for a long time. That was recently named the number 4 burrito in the state of New Jersey. But the thing I like to make the best is our wings. We smoke and grill our wings. No one does it like us. So there's no added salt, no sugar. We call them the healthiest wings in America. So just a little bit of a different take on what you think a chicken wing could be.
I love that. And in case no one was hungry, they are now, because I know I am. That sounds delicious. So I'll be down a little bit to get some wings. That sounds great.
Perfect.
So tell me a little bit about your company and how you started to grow and some of the operational things that you've seen. Because I'm assuming you're growing like crazy, right, with food like that. Sounds like it would be. Tell me a little bit about how your operations run.
Yeah. So interestingly enough, we were founded before COVID, right? A lot of people presume that this was like a COVID launched business, but sure. We got our start before that. I was consulting for a group of investors who were looking to invest in the next up and coming fast casual concept. So I was doing tons of research at other stores, mostly in New York City, looking at their operations and where I thought, oh, this would be a great place to invest in. And my ultimate takeaway was that none of them were a great investment. And I actually noticed a lot of chaos around delivery drivers and takeout and how that wasn't really a priority. It was disrupting people that were in the store and it just wasn't a good experience. So I started to reverse engineer what I thought could be a futuristic concept, right? People are paying more money for rent. There's all this great content on TV. People want to eat at home more. How can we provide them a great dining experience and the food happens to be delivered? So that was kind of the way we got our start, was how do we make takeout and delivery better? We've since grown, of course, with COVID, after COVID. We're still doing our thing. It's not an incremental piece of our business. It's our main business. And of course, operations are at the core of us being successful in that growth.
That's fantastic. And, I'm very excited to hear how that works, of course. So tell me a little bit about the pieces of operations that maybe shifted, or you noticed something was broken and you're like, this has to change and here's what we did.
Yeah. So I think I thought about myself as a consumer, right? What were the things that I didn't like? And when it came to takeout and delivery food, you were limited in your options, but also the quality seemed to be very limited. For some reason, people had this preconception that takeout meant it was a lot of cheap food, right? A huge quantity a very average food. And we tried to flip that on our head by, really focusing solely on the quality, not so much on the quantity, and making everything from scratch to order like a full service restaurant would do. So that's really one of our secrets to success is a lot of takeout and delivery places. They pre-cook all their food or they get frozen food. It sits out on a steam table. They scoop it into a takeout container and they call it a day. We actually make everything from scratch to order. So if you order a mac and cheese, it goes on the skillet. It's built to order. If you order wings, they go on the grill the moment you order them. Everything is made a la carte, similar to what you'd get in a full service dining experience. So while we're not the fastest, right, we're not a fast food restaurant, people really enjoy the quality that they get and the consistency that they get from the way we do things.
That's incredible. It's definitely a different kind of model, right? I don't see much of that for sure. Not at least in anywhere I've been around. So I think one of the things you hit on that obviously triggered a question for me is the customer journey map. So did you sit down and kind of map that out? Is that how you figured out that you should flip this and go quality over quantity? What was the kind of the process you used to sort through that?
Yeah. So again, my experience as a customer, right? What would make us different? What would be our value to a guest? And there's a million different places where you can get a ton of food for very cheap, but there weren't really any places where you could have a great meal at home if you weren't preparing it yourself. So that's really what we set out to focus on. I can say there was one specific thing that stood out was like, oh, Eureka, this is the idea. But I kind of saw what the future, once COVID hit, I did see, into the future of like, okay, well, there's going to be a lot of these virtual dining brands. There's going to be a lot of people flooding these apps. They might not last very long. There's a lot of sizzle, but no substance. And really, we wanted to be that consistent player that, maybe we were priced a little bit high. This is funny, going in, I knew that if we were doing things correctly and if we were priced correctly, I would have a very small percentage of guests that would say we were too expensive. And that was my key of like, we're actually priced perfectly. So yeah, we're not super premium where it's $35 for a takeout meal, but we're definitely not in that, fast casual price range of, 12 or $13 either.
Sure. And so when you're looking at that, what was kind of your measure or metric at, this is the right price, this isn't the right price? Like you said, you're not going to be able to charge $50 a meal, but what is that measure? How are you kind of gauging that? Like you said, quality over quantity. How are you measuring that for people?
Yeah, so it's unfortunately impossible to have a conversation about takeout and delivery without mentioning the apps. Again, going in, I knew that a certain percentage of our sales was going to come from the apps. The apps take a certain percentage or commission. That had to be a really important piece to us, right? Again, this is an incremental business for us. This is our core business. So we had to price ourselves where if the apps are taking 20 or 30%, we're still able to be a functional business. So there was a push and pull of how that needed to look. And honestly, it was also engagement with the customers, right? Sending out customer surveys once or twice a year. Hey, how do you feel about the pricing? Is this too much? Is this too little? Usually the market tells you when that happens. So, we know if we price too high and an item stops to move, okay, that's our sign that we've hit kind of the end point there. We have tried really hard not to raise prices. We've tried to figure out other ways so that, the customer doesn't continuously get hit with price raise after price raise after price raise. So some of that is done with our packaging and how people perceive value, right? If you use a really big container and don't put that much food in it, it looks even empty. If you use a smaller container and you pack it full, it looks like you've got a ton of food there. So there's a certain value perception that we needed to work with as well with packaging.
That's fantastic. And so while you're doing all these things, I'm assuming you have a team working for you or with you. What are some of the things, the operational process and procedures that you have in place for making sure that it goes out as hot as it can, it's going out in the right size container, and you're not putting, a 20-ounce steak in a 2-ounce container? So how are you balancing those things out?
Yeah. Like probably many other restaurants, you start with what you think is going to happen. Then there's what actually happens, and then we create our standard operating procedure or our SOP from that. So, that's a printed checklist of every item, what it gets packed in. And most importantly, actually, was the communication. So a big piece was our communication between the front of house, where our expediter and pack out person is, and our kitchen team. Because if there's an order of mac and cheese, maybe that takes us 6 minutes to make, but maybe the driver's 20 minutes away. We don't want to fire that mac and cheese right away and that it sits for 15 minutes while we wait for the driver. So there's a communication that needs to happen. I wish I could say that we built some beautiful piece of tech that worked to get this right exactly, but there are so many intricate things that can happen during any single order that it really just comes down to human beings communicating with one another and having an understanding of how long each item is going to take, how far away the driver is. And that's how we test a lot of our items too, right? We put them into a bag, we shut the bag for 30 to 45 minutes. How does it come out? Does it still taste fresh? Does it still taste good? So that was, again, part of our original ethos. How do we make it better? Well, we make it better by timing it correctly, so it is piping hot when it arrives.
That's fantastic. So how often are you testing, right? Like, I would love that job. Let me come down and test your quality, right? So what does that look like? How is that kind of worked into your operating system? And I'm assuming there's some trial and error on that. Tell us a little bit about what that might look like.
Yeah, so always trial and error. I think testing for us, we can't eat it right away, which is really frustrating when you're like making something super delicious and you're like, oh my God, this looks great. We're like, but we can't touch it for 30 minutes. Right. So that was always, first and foremost, what we were concerned about was the timing of it, right? And making sure that it lasts and it holds up. The other piece that we need to play with is our SKUs, right? We do all these different foods. We do them all from scratch, but we're not a huge place, right? And we prep everything. So cross product utilization was super important for us. So when we think about a new item, we think, okay, what do we already have in house? What's already prepped? What can we create to make a new item without adding more complexities on the purchasing side and the prep side?
Yeah. Which has got to be, I think restaurants in general have got huge margins, right, on where that food is good and for how long and the utilization rates, like you said. So what are some of the things that you found to kind of keep that ebb and flow? So when you try something new, I'm sure trying something new today is a lot different than trying something new when you first started pre-COVID. Tell me a little bit about that process and what you uncovered in figuring that out. Yeah.
Well, one, we have a lot more employees now than we did then. So where I used to be the driver of new items and R&D, now maybe sometimes not even the mix at all, right? And we have really talented people in the kitchen that want to test and push things. And then when they think it's ready, then they bring it to me. Then I taste it and try it, or we look at it and be like, okay, how does this fit on the line with pickup? So certainly you need to know how to delegate if you want to grow. So that was something that was honestly very challenging for me at first. Right. I was micromanaging the first store. I was there almost every day. And then as we grow and, move to a second store and get busier and busier, now I can't see every order go out. Now I don't know exactly what's happening. So you really got to trust those processes and procedures. And you really have to trust, the people that you have, knowing that they care as much as you do. And that's, a key for us is, we hire people that really give an S. I don't want to curse on your show. Maybe it's a family show, but that certainly is something that we look for, is that passion for people who really care about, that meal that our guest is going to have.
Absolutely. And you can't say it enough, right? It's always the challenge, but it's always the greatest asset you have. So tell me a little bit about your hiring process. What do you look for? Are you looking for, can they fillet something the right way, or is there more to it?
Yeah. Everything, always, and you rarely get it all. So you kind of have to pick and choose. I think we certainly need our top people in the kitchen to have a lot of technical skill. Again, we make everything from scratch. This is not a fast food concept where people are just pressing buttons, right? People need to know how to season food, how to work multiple stations. So we certainly need experienced cooks. But really on the character side, we really try to find people that are self-motivated and manage themselves. We don't have a heavy floor supervisor presence because the concept doesn't really call for that. So it's really important for us to find people who don't need to have someone watching over their shoulder to do things the right way, right? People that kind of have that innate sense of ownership over what they're doing, and that's really been a key factor. And look, that's not the end all be all. We've probably let go of or lost 100 employees over 5 years because that's just the nature of this business. But we've managed to maintain our great ones. And my prep cook, who was one of my first hires before we opened up our first store, is now like our culinary director, helped us open new locations, runs all our catering, and is still a key cog to our team. So, we try to, when we do come across someone great, we make sure that they have everything they need to want to stay with us and continue working with us.
Oh, absolutely. And it's always those people that matter, right? So as you're scaling, I'm assuming there's still some scaling going on. How are you digging into those people to make sure that you replicate those key cogs in the wheel?
It's hard. Yeah, it's certainly hard. I think that good people attract good people, and good processes help to keep them when they feel like things are organized and things make sense. I'm a former high school basketball coach, and I like to equate those things a lot together as far as like coaching and athletics and how it is to run a restaurant team. And I think it's finding unselfish players, people who are willing to admit they made a mistake, who want to learn and get better. All those things are really important. And for me, I always try to explain the why. It's not just, I want you to do this, I want you to do that, I want you to do that. I like to explain the reason why we're doing it this way, or here's what my thought process was and why I'm asking you to do this. This way they can learn instead of just following direction. And that's been a key point for growth for us too.
Oh my God, yeah, that's so important. And so many people don't understand that, right? Don't just direct, explain. And that makes a huge difference. So tell me one of the situations where you learned that was critical, where you learned that explaining why maybe so that other people can see the value in the why.
Yeah, I think a lot of times it's scheduling, believe it or not. And I'm dealing with this currently right now as we go into a heavy catering week. So I don't oversee the schedule anymore. I don't double check. I presume that my store managers should know how and why to schedule. I have a situation currently where my manager did a schedule for the budget, not what was coming up and what's going to happen sales wise. So we're really short on people for this week. I'm going to work to adjust that. And I think if I had explained, we don't just follow the budget, we need to actually make sure that look at what our forecasted sales are. We know there are these caterings coming up. There's no reason not to beef up the schedule, even if there isn't overtime. And we're supposed to never go into overtime. There are situations that do call for that when the sales are there. So, I certainly blame myself for that because I could have done a better job going into the weeks. Hey, just a reminder, we have these caterings coming up. It's okay to bump up hours or go into OT or X, Y, or Z. And I think that would have helped because I think I have a very stressed out chef manager right now in preparation for this week.
Well, let me just start with kudos to you for recognizing that, right? There's so many people don't recognize that it starts at the top, whether you want to admit it or not, it's true. And, kudos to you. And I'm sorry that you guys are going through that. That's not going to be a fun week, but lesson learned, right? And it sounds like your people are willing to jump in and kind of move around a little bit and help you out. So as you're looking at scaling, I would assume you're still scaling because you have multiple locations. And are you looking at multiple locations? Are you looking at things that you're going to do different? Are you looking at procedures you're going to change? What does that feel like for you?
Yeah. So one, to be frank, and this is maybe just specific to me, I don't think about scaling and success being equal things. I don't think they're correlated. So for us, we're trying to do the best job that we can at the store level. And knowing that if we take care of all the things we have to take care of, that big picture stuff will kind of take care of itself and be a little bit more of a natural growth that we don't need to force. Success looks different to everybody. Success for me isn't, I'm going to open up 20 stores or 200 stores. Success for me is I'm giving great people continued opportunities to advance, continued opportunities to learn. I have 2 young kids. Success for me looks like me being able to see my kids at night and put them to bed. So I just, sometimes people get confused and think that scaling is the only way to be successful. And I want to dismiss that notion entirely. That being said, as we look to grow, we've actually incorporated a new model, which is on the hat that I'm wearing, is called Bergen Hall. And this is, I realize that no matter if you have a small store or a large store, a lot of work and effort goes into that. A kitchen is a kitchen. And something that we weren't getting is we never had a situation where we all of a sudden have like a $600 walk-in order, right? We don't have tables to do that.
Yep.
So our latest model incorporates our GTK takeout and delivery alongside a full service restaurant and bar, which this one happens to be called Bergen Hall. And this allows us to utilize about 90% of the same SKUs, but create an entirely different experience for an entirely different group of people, large groups, private events, community functions, things of that nature. So we're able to do all that while we also do the takeout and delivery side. So this is a very unique model that we're kind of pioneering. I like to call it the Flexterant, right? So we can do kind of multiple things under multiple brands. I don't think food halls were very successful, and that's not a direction we wanted to go. But this, allows us to grow in a way where we can get the most bang for our overhead, right? Our overhead cost is the same. Our labor cost is nearly the same. But our opportunity for revenue is 5x or 10x because of the different things that we can do. So that's how we're looking to grow into the future, is prove out this model, and then in the future open up a GTK with a different full service concept that neighborhood needs. Bergen Hall works for what's needed in Jersey City for like a neighborhood casual bar space, but maybe we go into an area that has no Italian food or no Thai food, and we want to base the full service concept around that. So it's something that we're really aggressively pursuing. We know our takeout and delivery model works, but also that there is a pretty hard cap on the ceiling on what that looks like. And we think this new one unlocks kind of unlimited growth.
That sounds incredible. So tell me a little bit of how you shift your model without shifting your model, right? So shift to this higher revenue model with the same concepts in play. Tell me a little bit about that, what that looks like from an operations perspective, obviously.
It was really challenging. We opened this at the end of May, so it's been about 6 months since we've done that. There was a lot of menu testing that had to go out. Where is everything going to fit on the line if we have like these two disparate menus, and how that looks and feels, given that we were so hyper focused on cross product utilization and prep. Mm-hmm. And so we're able to continue to do that, and then add a few additional proteins that serve for kind of main courses and sit down more, and then use our same ingredients but instead of focusing on making it great for takeout and pickup, we could make it great for dine-in, right? So that just might mean that we're using the fryer more, which we don't typically do for takeout and delivery because fried stuff doesn't stay crispy, and in-house it will. So, there were simple things like that. Getting the culinary team on board and in place with it was a little challenging. Like, wait, so we're doing this and this? But I think now we've been able to really have a nice flow to that. A lot of it was the kitchen operation and how things flowed from stations. I'm not going to give away our secret on that because it is a great one, but we're able to do this all off of one kitchen line in a very efficient manner. So on Friday nights, we might have 50 to 100 orders going out for takeout and delivery. And then, we have 100 to 150 covers coming into the restaurant, and the takeout guests never know about the dine-in guests, and the dine-in guests never feel the takeout and delivery. And that's, when things are flowing perfectly and are hitting the vision exactly how we want it.
So with an up and running fantastic model and one that you're testing out, what's the marker for, heck yeah, we're going to do this again, and we're going to try it in this place and this place and this place?
I think it's comes down to the margins, right? Okay. If we can prove out, my thesis is that we can have a much higher bottom line EBITDA with this full service model that has alcohol sales and event sales and on-premise parties than our one that, has the apps involved a little bit who take a commission. It's only takeout and delivery. So I think we would be looking for a significant variance, positive variance in the bottom line EBITDA to say, okay, we feel really, really good about this. This store is doing almost 50% more EBITDA than this store. This model is doing almost 50% more EBITDA than this store. This is something we really want to pursue. Let's find another market for that. And part of our search too is finding the right partners. Building out and developing restaurants is really, really expensive. And unless you own the building, those aren't improvements that really help you long term. So it's finding a partner. In our case, this new model we launched was at the bottom, the base of a luxury high-rise building. We think that's a great, piece for us. They're already spending hundreds of millions of dollars developing all these apartments. A little extra money to put in our restaurant, and they get higher rents is a win-win. So it's finding the right partners so that we can make it work, and our capital outlay isn't so intense on the development side.
Sure, that's I think those are phenomenal ideas, and I don't want too many trade secrets out there, but I think that's a great way to do it, is to really look to your partners and how is it a win-win for people. I think that's true anywhere in operations. So if you're looking to the future and you see both of your models and they're both succeeding, tell me something, or tell the listeners something that they need to know about being an entrepreneur, about testing this model, ups and downs, highs and lows. What are some lessons that you think they need to know?
It's really hard. I just think if you go into entrepreneurship in general, and this is not just the restaurant business, this is just entrepreneurship, you need to have the right mindset for it. It's not for everybody. I think some people see entrepreneurs being successful or making their own schedule, and they're like, oh man, that looks great. But what you don't see is that, like, you get a phone call at 3:00 in the morning, you're on 24/7. The buck stops with you, starts with you. It's an absolute roller coaster. You can get depressed. You can feel alone. It's really, really challenging. I've been through all of those challenges. I still go through those challenges. Did I make a huge mistake? Oh my God. Am I doing the right thing? Should I double down? Should I pull out? It's hard, and the food business is really hard. So put those things together and you have a very challenging entrepreneurial journey. But I also think that it's really rewarding. It's really rewarding to see something that happened in your mind exist in real life. Like, that was one of the coolest things for me, is like, I remember when we broke $1 million. And I was like, wow, I came up with something that never existed in the world before. And it did $1 million in revenue. I was like, that was a proud moment for me.
Absolutely.
A fleeting proud moment, but certainly a proud moment. And, for people that love the restaurant business and real hospitality, there's nothing better, I think, than being in your dining room and seeing people laugh and enjoy a time, celebrate a milestone. Someone's going to tell a joke in the restaurant that people are going to remember 10 years from now. Be like, oh, remember the time that, those things are really important, especially as AI and technology and automation continues to ramp up. I think having those human in-person moments is more important than ever. And that's another reason why we're trying to add this other piece to our model, is to bring back the hospitality aspect of hospitality. And so, you got to love it. You just got to love it. You can't do it for the money because it's not always there. So you really have to love what you do.
For sure. So it definitely sounds like you love what you do, and it's been a great conversation. I've really enjoyed it. I think you are on something really special, and I hope that continues for you, and I hope that people continue to enjoy. And if you ever need a taster, I'm here for you, for sure.
I appreciate that. Surprisingly, we get that offer pretty often. No one ever wants to do the dishes, but everyone's willing to taste.
I know if I get to taste some of that food, it sounds amazing. Thank you so much, Andrew. I appreciate you very much, and I hope you guys have a great catering season coming up.
Thank you so much. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.